Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you're all well. I'm just on the channel Motech again. I think we had two videos today from Motech. I have subscribed and liked the videos, and I probably won't mention many more of his videos. I've mentioned two, and it's a good channel, so go and subscribe to the channel. And yeah, give the guy the views and for his content because it's good content. And again, I maybe will mention more of his videos. I haven't been through them all, but I've only seen two today, and two things very interesting. The first one was about Admiral Byrd, which I was aware of. I didn't know that crack before, but this I'd never did. I've never heard anything about this before, so this was real interesting to be honest. And this was the video I was going to make the video on, but then I seen the Admiral Byrd thing as well, which sort of linked into the Inner Earth and it linked into the Nazis and just was interesting as well. Not so much a mass big fan of the theory per se, or maybe the Inner Earth with a big hole. I don't know. I'm not really. I'm on the fence with that one, to be honest. I would more go for no, but I don't know. This is different, completely different subject entirely. This is the most mysterious mountain in the world, and it's Cal. Well, I'll play the video before I massacre the name of the mountain and let the guy say it, and then I'll.
To date, close to 7,000 different people have scaled Mount Everest, the highest mountain in the world. But there is one mountain thousands of meters shorter and not even in the top 100 highest peaks in the world that no one dares to climb. Not even the most experienced mountaineers. That mountain is Mount Kailash.
So Mount Kailash, right? It is just off the screen on the bottom here, but I still would have massacred it if I tried to say it myself. So Mount Kailash, it sort of borders a few countries. I think he'll show you on a map in a minute where it is. This video is real interesting, to be honest. I didn't know anything about this at all. I've never heard of this. So when you find something new and something interesting, it's always good, to be honest. I probably again the video is 29 minutes long. My video will be a similar thing, and I'm talking through this, so you won't get this. I won't play all of this video. You'll have to go and watch it on Motech. It's called The Most Mysterious Mountain in the World. It's 9 months old, the video. It's had 2.5 million views. But just again, I'd never heard a single thing ever about this before, to be honest. And it links into another thing, a stone structure built nearby as well, which is very interesting, which I'll maybe do a video on. Carved into stone, sort of buildings carved into the side of a mountain. Very, very, again, brilliant how it's been done, and it's just amazing architecture carved into stone. And I think it's mentioned in this video at some point, but not a lot, but we'll get to that. So anyhow, Mount Kailash, he'll show you his location now, I believe.
Late 20th century, a group of Siberian mountaineers attempted to summit this mountain. This was just a few decades after another group of mountaineers had attempted the same feat, but ended up vanishing without a trace. Hours into the climbing, each of the climbers made a shocking discovery. They had started to age very rapidly. Their hair and fingernails had grown out significantly, making them look like they'd been living on the mountain for a few weeks, rather than just climbing for a few hours. Not even anywhere close to the peak of the mountain, the climbers decided to abandon the expedition and go back to their normal lives. Unknown to them, normal went out the door the day they decided to climb Mount Kailash. Barely 1 year after their climbing attempt, every single one of the climbers who went on that expedition died. And while that is mysterious enough on its own, the conditions under which all of the climbers died turn out to be even more strange. The climbers, who were all young men at the time of the climb, died of old age.
These real-time translation earbuds are taken.
So yeah, they died of old age after trying to climb this mountain, which is mysterious in itself, if that was the only thing that's going to be said here, but it gets a lot deeper than that. That's the tale, though. This mountain and the people who have tried to climb it aged rapidly while they were up there, and then when they come back, they died of old age, and within like a year or two is the tale. And again, I just thought, I'm not 100% sure on how true it is, but just fascinating kind of tale, to be honest. But there's a lot more to this mountain. There's a lot more. If that was it, I wouldn't mention it, and I would disbelieve that if that was the only thing going here. But it really isn't. There's a lot more to this mountain, as this video will say.
Tests that the mountain had caused them to age by decades in just 1 year. Experts who have been looking into this mountain say that this may not even be a mountain at all, citing its near-perfect sides. They say it might actually be a man-made pyramid built by an ancient but technologically advanced civilization. Some would conclude this race to be divine. Others would insist that they are extraterrestrial. For several days, I scoured the internet, reading, watching, and listening intently to literally everything I could find about Mount Kailash. The result of my findings? A lot more questions than answers. This is probably the most mysterious geological phenomenon to ever exist. Chapter 1. The Mystery of Mount Kailash. Mount Kailash, also known as Kailash Parvat, or the Stairway to Heaven, is located in the southwest corner of Tibet. For many centuries now, this mountain has captivated the collective imagination of the entire human race for many mysterious reasons. And the fact that the mountain sits on the border between China and India isn't even one of them. The mountain also seems to have a thing with the number 4. For context, 4 religions lay claim to Mount Kailash as a holy site: Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and the Bon religion. But more on this later. Secondly, 4 rivers flow out of Kailash, and each of these rivers flows in the direction of each of the 4 cardinal points. First is the Indus River, which flows north. Then we have the Sutlej, which flows west. Third is the Brahmaputra, which flows east. And then we have the Karnali River, which flows south. But even that isn't where things start to get strange. Let's talk about the appearance of this so-called mountain. Judging by looks alone, Mount Kailash hardly looks like a mountain. Now, to be clear, Mount Kailash isn't the only mountain that takes the shape of a pyramid. There are many other pyramidal peaks in the world, like Pyramid Mountain in Alberta, Alpamayo in Peru, Muratov Peak in Bulgaria, and several others. However, as you can see, all of these other mountains have the imperfections you'd expect from a naturally occurring landform. Mount Kailash, on the other hand, does not. Its sides are almost perfectly perpendicular, almost like someone intentionally designed and constructed the mountain that way. This gives Kailash a highly symmetrical look, with each slope aligning to each of the 4 cardinal points. And this brings me to my next point. Each of the 4 faces of Mount Kailash is reported to have different colors.
So, just linking into pyramids there, this is again why this is an interesting, fascinating video and topic. So, obviously we've been talking about the pyramids and what's underneath the pyramids and pyramids on all the continents, and there's some link to pyramids. And then this mountain linking into pyramids, and just again, fascinating stuff. Again, he goes on here about the sides and all sorts. There's also, again, this video is 29 minutes long, and it's only just beginning, you know what I mean?
The north face is said to be the color of gold. The south face is lapis lazuli. The east face is the color of crystal, and the west face is the color of ruby. Speaking of faces, the northern slopes of Mount Kailash always have far less snow than its southern slopes. Now, that doesn't immediately strike you as odd until you realize that in the northern hemisphere of the Earth, the south side typically gets more sunlight than the north side. This means that, naturally speaking, the north face of Mount Kailash should have far more snow than the south side, since it receives less sunlight. But once again, Mount Kailash bends the law of nature, and its northern slope experiences relatively little snow in comparison to the south face that gets more sunlight and still manages to welcome glaciers and snowfall all year round. As if this isn't weird enough, there's also the very strange magnetic force field on Mount Kailash. On a good day, finding your bearing with a compass is a pretty simple task, since the Earth's magnetic field is as straightforward as a bar magnet with a north pole and a south pole. On Mount Kailash, however, The needles just keep spinning and never end up pointing north. Mount Kailash also has zero plant life, which is highly unusual. Mountains always have trees and plants growing out from their fissures. But strangely, on Mount Kailash, not even one plant can be found. It's completely barren. Now, here's where things go from weird to, quote, too coincidental to be random, unquote. The south face of Mount Kailash seems to come with a swastika inscribed on it. No one knows if this was inscribed by someone or if it was the result of natural activity. All we know for sure is that when the sun sets on the south side of Mount Kailash, the massive vertical ice cracks and horizontal strata of the rock form a shadow of a left-facing swastika, which, interestingly, is considered an auspicious sign for all four religions that consider Mount Kailash sacred. Amazed? Well, things get even weirder, because the swastika isn't the only ancient religious symbol inscribed on Mount Kailash.
Yeah, he's going to show you another here, and I don't know if it's in this video, but I have seen on another video. I watched a few on this subject this morning after I watched this one, and there was a few other ones. There was another guy. I'm not sure of his nationality, but he basically just stole this guy's video in essence, cut it down to 15 minutes, and used all his like video stuff, which, I mean, anyone can do. I could have just stole all this, muted it and talked over it, but it's not really fair on Motech, you know what I mean? He's went to the effort to making all this video, so again, I won't play it all. Get yourself over there to watch the end of it and give the guy a like. But yeah, there isn't just a swatch to get. I mean, that one it's dubious for me that it is kind of there, but I'm not sold on that neither. This one though is definitely there from a picture I've seen. Possibly it'll be on the picture in here in a moment. Hold on.
According to satellite views of the mountain, the face of Hindu deity, Lord Shiva, appears on Mount Kailash. Also, the snow on the peak of this mountain takes the shape of Om, which is considered the greatest and most sacred syllable of all the mantras in Hinduism. Things are definitely no less mysterious on the geographical side of things. Mount Kailash is popularly known within geographical circles as...
Imagine entering your name and a few...
Got to suffer the adverts, but it's all money for Motech, money for Motech. So yeah, I mean, so far though, just interesting stuff. Again, the sign there, that to me, the second sign. I mean, I even kind of seen the image of the face in the mountain as well. To be honest, just interesting stuff. Honestly, I'd never heard of. There's two lakes as well below the mountain, and the two lakes are quite mysterious in ways as well. Hold on, we'll continue.
Of the earth. This is because the mountain sits exactly at the very center of the planet, or the axis mundi, as some religions call it. From this position, Mount Kailash maintains an eerily consistent distance from major structures around the world. For instance, Kailash is 6,666 kilometers away.
I know this to be false already. It's not. It's 6,606, I believe, kilometers from Stonehenge. It's slightly more to the North Pole and the South Pole, something like 13,000 kilometers to the South Pole. So wherever he's got this information from, it's wrong.
From Stonehenge, as well as the North Pole.
So again, there's no way it's 6,000 to the South Pole because of the length of Africa. You would have thought, just think known geography, and according to another video I watched, this was debunked, this whole 666 thing. This wasn't 6, this was 6606. This was something like 5,000, and this was 13. So I don't necessarily believe them measurements, for I've seen a video debunking them. I'm not quite sure. I mean, you can probably go on Google Earth and find out for yourself, but listening to the second video debunking it made more sense to me than all this making sense, to be honest.
And the South Pole. Not weird enough for you? Well, Mount Kailash is also 13,332 kilometers from base to peak, That's 6,666 kilometers times 2. On top of that, Mount Kailash has these two lakes which bend the laws of science just as well as Kailash itself does. The two lakes are known as Mansarovar and Rakshastal, and from their characteristics today, you'd hardly believe that these two used to be the same body of water before they became separated due to tectonic activity. On the one hand is Mansarovar. It's a freshwater lake, round like the sun and boasting aquatic life. But here's where things get interesting. Mansarovar is the highest freshwater lake in the world. However, even at its altitude, the lake never freezes over, no matter the time of the year. The lake also never moves, regardless of what extreme weather condition hits the area. Rakshastal, on the other hand, is completely different. Also called the Demon Lake, Rakshastal is shaped like the crescent moon, extremely salty, does not support life, and is quite turbulent compared to the Mansarovar. On top of that, locals claim that the Rakshastal periodically vanishes, leaving behind parched ground, only to mysteriously reappear at full volume later, like it never left in the first place. This is why some people refer to the lake as the Ghost Lake.
So what basically happens, I mean, this can be explained by science, to be honest. This is fresh water, and it runs out into the Ghost Lake. Now, the Ghost Lake hasn't got a runoff, it doesn't go anywhere, and it systematically dries up and comes back. And the salt within the water is left behind each time it does that. And the salt content in the water is too high to support life, so all life's died in that lake. And this lake supports life because it's got a runoff and the water runs out and it's got movement, and that's how fresh oil kind of works. This is kind of a dead still lake that's got no runoff, and well, once the evaporation happens, it kind of leaves all the salt behind, and over hundreds or thousands or hundreds of thousands of years, the salt content's got to a level that no life can support. So it's kind of explained by science, really, what's going on with the two lakes. Why this one never freezes is not really explained by science, to be honest. That is a bit of a mystery. Hold on.
However, none of these features of Mount Kailash are as bewildering or as terrifying as the experiences people have had trying to climb this mountain. Besides the horror story of the Siberian climbers, who died of old age after climbing Mount Kailash, there are other less terrifying but still unexplainable encounters that climbers have recorded on this mountain. In fact, except you're a hardened cynic, you'd probably be, at least, open to the idea that there's something or someone on this mountain who does not want anyone climbing it. Climbers have reported finding themselves suddenly going back the same way they came while trying to get to the peak of the mountain, almost like the mountain changed position as they climbed. Others were forced down by sudden, unexplained blizzards or rainstorms from nowhere, while some simply felt a mysterious wave of illness that made it impossible for them to continue. Colonel Wilson, one of the many mountaineers who tried to scale the summit of Mount Kailash, said, "Just when I discovered an easy walk to the summit of the mountain, heavy snow began to fall, making the ascent impossible." Sergei Chistyakov's experience was even far worse. In the words of the Russian climber, "When we approached the foot of the mountain, my heart was pounding. I was in front of the sacred mountain, which has never been beaten. I felt extremely emaciated, and suddenly I was captivated by the thought that I do not belong on this mountain, that I must necessarily come back. As soon as we started the descent, I felt liberated." But it's not just humans who have been unable to conquer Mount Kailash. Even our technological advancements in aeronautics have been beaten by this mountain. To date, even our most sophisticated planes still can't fly over Mount Kailash, as there seems to be some invisible force that...
That's not true either, to be honest. What it is planes don't have air at 30,000 feet. If there was any sort of emergency, the plane would have to deploy the air masks in the cabin. Now, the air in the air masks in the cabin lasts up to 15 to 20 minutes. Now, after that 15 to 20 minutes, everyone will suffocate, so the plane has to come down to an altitude of about 3 to 5,000 feet so that there is air so everybody doesn't suffocate. In this region of Tibet, these mountains, and there's a lot of mountains, they all range in this kind of altitude of about 3 to 5,000, 6,000 feet. So no plane can safely have an emergency, come down to an altitude where people could breathe and fly without worry, to be honest. There's mountains everywhere, if everybody knows what I'm saying. So the reason the planes don't fly over these mountains is nothing to do with a mysterious mountain beast or some sort of force. It's to do with if there's any sort of emergency and the plane had to drop to a altitude where people could breathe because the oxygen had run out, it would be very difficult due to the mountains. So it's kind of a precaution for a precaution, so to speak. Like if an emergency does happen, the chances of dealing with that emergency successfully, having to drop down this altitude, would be hindered due to the mountains. So you just stay away from the mountains is kind of the crack I've got, and why we don't fly over these mountains. And it makes logical sense. It's a good explanation, to be honest. And the mountains would hinder you at a height where people could breathe in the plane, because you can't breathe at 30,000 feet, and the aircraft's pressurized. So that was another video I watched, and it explained that phenomena sort of thing. And to me, that's very logical, to be honest. I don't think it is maybe some sort of phenomena of the mountain. It is maybe to do with the safety of the plane and how the planes operate.
Keeps them from proceeding beyond a specific elevation at that height. What could possibly explain the multiple riddles thrown to us by Mount Kailash?
So he says planes can't elevate to a certain height in that region. I'm not sure that to be true. I've never heard that before. Not that I've heard of this before, but surely that would be a thing you might have heard of. But again, when I watched another video, it explained why planes don't fly over this area, and it's basically just because it's a mountainous area that's altitude's the highest on Earth, and planes could get in trouble if they had to drop down to an altitude where people could breathe.
Well, currently there are two theories, and though both of them provide thought-provoking,
you could be owed over 5,000.
No, I mean, or cars to rub the salt in the... Does the adverts know that I need a car here, you know what I mean? Are you trying to sell me a car, Mr. YouTube here? What's the situation?
Plausible answers, neither offers a sufficient explanation to the many mysteries of Kailash on its own.
As well, the Chinese government in 1980, it is in this video, but we maybe won't get to it. The Chinese government banned anyone climbing this mountain in 1980. Apparently, you're not allowed to climb it now. So that could be some reason as why people don't climb it. You're not actually allowed to now, I don't believe. But obviously that was only 1980. There's a lot of time passed before that, and a lot of mountains been climbed before that. So, and there was tales of there people who tried to climb it, but apparently it was banned in 1980 by the Chinese government.
Chapter 2. The Extraterrestrial Theory. The first theory we're going to...
So I'll leave it here, to be honest, because he's going to go through theories of what the mountain's strange about it. And as he said there, the extraterrestrial theory, linking into pyramids and all these sort of things. I'm just running out of time on this video, to be honest, to get all the way through the extraterrestrial theory, probably, and I'll be halfway through it. So I'll maybe make part 2, to be honest. I'll make part 2 maybe, and go through the theories from the start here at the extraterrestrial one, because rather than sort of do half of the theory and end the video there. I'll leave it there anyhow for now. So Mount I can't even say it anymore. Kailash possibly. Yeah, but I'd never heard of anything about this before, so just very interesting again. More mysteries of the earth and such forth. Peace.